What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Cruella. This film is, of course, directed by Gillespie. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video to watch, including this one. So, Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil, as we all know, is a very famous Disney villain. She was also based off a book. Of course, the book was 101 Dalmatians, as well as the movie. Glenn Close played her in the live-action series. And Cruella de Vil is most notoriously known for killing animals and stealing 101 Dalmatians from Pongo and Purdy and Roger and Nita and trying to make a code out of it. Very, very famous story. We all know it. We all hate her just for that situation. And so this movie, Cruella, actually takes the character of Cruella de Vil, gives her a three-dimensional persona, and is played by Emma Stone, and we watch the kind of rise of how she eventually became Cruella de Vil and the kind of twists and turns that involved with, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, we eventually meet characters Horace and Jasper, who are kind of thugs in a lot of ways, who are played by Paul Walter Hauser and Joel Fry. We meet a character that is kind of a big influence on her, who's played by the Emma Thompson, who plays the Baroness, who's she's like a lot like Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, just a very mean individual. And we meet also some other characters. We meet like Anita Darling, and we meet, of course, Roger and stuff like that early in this film. And so with that said, this is a live action telling of her origin story. And in essence, it's not like a lot of the other live action adaptations like The Lion King or Cinderella and so on and so forth, where they're just doing kind of straightforward copies of the original animated movies that were very, very popular. So taking a story like the origins of Cruella de Vil and making it more of like a three-dimensional story, giving her kind of like Maleficent a very interesting back history, makes this movie a much more interesting kind of story to delve into, a world to delve into. You're given a very interesting 60s and 70s perspective on where this story is going to eventually end up, like I said with the Glenn Close movie. And I'll be fairly honest, I didn't like the first trailer I saw this movie. I didn't think it was very effective. I got a lot of hate for it because people were like, oh, this is going to be much different. This is going to be much more entertaining. This is not going to be like Aladdin or Lion King. And I was like, maybe that's a possibility, but you got to remember Disney's very much in the money-making business. This has been their MO for quite a while with the whole live-action remakes. So a movie with Cruella de Vil, a movie that deals with a very famous Disney villain, I don't get on board with because I just feel like they're just kind of, going into the same well. They're delving into that same territory. And I'll be fairly honest, I'm glad I was wrong. I really am. So for my review, this movie is actually quite entertaining. Not only is it quite entertaining, but it is fun, it is effective, it has a lot of great moments. Emma Stone is quite incredible in this movie as Cruella or Stella or whatever you want to call her in this movie. I think Joel Fry and Paul Walter Hauser are perfect, goon style characters who have a lot more dimension to them than they ever had in any of the cartoons or the live action movie that was Glenn Close. And it gives us a story that is really not only effective, but really puts a really dimensional spin on the Cruella character. It's very similar to something like Maleficent, where you really get a kind of interesting approach to a character that you've always come to hate and loathe, because that's how Disney set up these characters. That's how the character was written. So when you can give them some dimension, when you can give them some interesting looks into their back history, it leads for a much more fascinating character in a lot of aspects. And that's what works so well in this movie, is not only is Emma Stone's performance, but just the fact that she has so much kind of torture of her back history, to the point where she becomes working for the Baroness, to the point where she becomes Cruella de Vil. There's a very fine kind of level of follow through in that that product, so it makes it for a very entertaining character, and it kind of makes you root for who Cruella de Vil is, because the Baroness is a terrible person. She is awful, and it's not Emma Thompson's fault. It's just the way the character's written. It's the way the character's portrayed. And Emma Thompson's actually very over the top and silly, but so much fun in this movie, and so on and so forth. And it's just a well written, well scripted, well directed movie that has so many great moments. There are moments with the Dalmatians, which is a lot of fun. The dogs that are used in this movie, the Paul Walter Hauser has this little tiny dog he names Wink, which is a lot of fun. Of course, Cruella has her own dog that she's had since she was a kid. This movie, takes place in a 10-year period. And I just think it's a movie that really envelops who Cruella DeVille is, why she became who she is. And it's just a lot of fun. The settings are a lot of fun. Mark Strong comes into this movie and he doesn't have a lot to do, but the thing that he has in this movie, the kind of way this movie is structured, he ends up becoming kind of important to the story. We of course have Anita Darling, who's played by Kirby Howell-Baptiste, who's a reporter who has actually a pretty big part in this movie. So it's really interesting to see how her character's structured and how she'll become really important in the 101 Dalmatians story. But I really think this movie really works just on the strength of Emma Stone alone. She's able to kind of twist and turn. She's able to make her kind of devilish feel, and how she portrays the character very well thought out, very well thought-provoking. And she just has a lot of fun with the role. This feels like the perfect kind of big budget starring role that seems perfectly fit for somebody like Emma Stone, because, she's a character actress or an actress that's known for doing kind of interesting character parts. And here she's just taking on a character that's not only iconic, but she puts her own spin on it. So, the fact that when we see her with the black and white hair eventually, and we see her in like the costumes, which is Oscar worthy level costumes in this movie, as well as like cinematography, the look and feel of this movie, the production value, it's all 100% effective and kind of mind-blowing how good it looks. But this movie on its other shelf is actually quite dark. This movie is PG-13, by the way, so this movie goes into very, very dark places, but I think it fits for the simple fact that the story of 101 Dalmatians, the fact that she's stealing Dalmatians to make a coat, is really dark upon itself. So the fact that they made this movie and they are going to some of the dark places that they go in this movie without spoiling anything, I think it makes it work. I think it actually fits with what the storyline is trying to do, with how it's portraying to the eventual conclusion of where the story goes and later on in the future. You look at anything like the Lion King remake or the Aladdin remake, and I believe they're all PG movies. So going into PG-13 territory with a character like Cruella DeVille, as much as it fits, it might put off some families because it does definitely go to some dark places, but it's not dark enough that where you're not going to be uncomfortable with what they're doing. It's just the level of subjective material and the level of identity that this film is portraying that is something that is very well known in Craig Gillespie's directorial efforts and stuff like that. You look at like I, Tonya and whatnot, he knows how to like coerce that boundary of being really dark and really light, and that fits in this movie too. So it's a really great movie in that aspect. I just want to warn you that it goes into some dark places. But if I also had one more critique of this movie, it has a Suicide Squad effect problem where there is a lot of songs in this movie, a lot of famous songs in this movie. The budget for the songs alone must have been insanely expensive, because it takes almost every famous song that from the 60s and 70s and thrust into this movie about every minute or so. So it does get a little overzealous with its music, a little overzealous with the portrayal of the songs in the movie. I like the fact that we see these songs in this movie, but I think if it had its own original score and kind of worked with that and kind of massaged the other songs into the movie, I think it would have worked a lot better. But like I said, like with Suicide Squad, you're going to hear a lot of famous tunes, and it might get a little cumbersome and a little over the top when it comes to playing in this movie, because there's a lot. Like I said, there's a point where every minute there seems to be a new song. But like I said, they're great songs anyway, so that might not bother you, but that's just kind of more of a problem that I have with this movie. Also, its length, it's probably like 15 or 20 minutes too long, because there's points where it just kind of slows to a crawl in some points, and I wish it would have sped up a little more. I think if you made this like an hour and 50 minutes and cut out some of the fat that's in this movie, I think it would have worked a lot better. But in the end, getting the negative stuff out of the way, it's still a very, very entertaining movie with some great performances, a great script, great directorial feel, production value feel, and stuff like that. And I think of all the live action adaptations that have come out, the fact that this is like a prequel and takes a character and does something different with them, unlike Cinderella and Aladdin, so on and so forth, I think it wins. I really do. I think this is really good. I really do. I think it's a movie that people are going to be very entertained by, very happy by, and I think this movie is going to be one of those movies that's looked upon, like the live action adaptation of 101 Dalmatians, as a movie that has a lot of potential to just be a classic for Disney and so on and so forth. And it leaves open the kind of concept of having that 101 Dalmatians remake, which I would be happy to look forward to, as long as you have the same cast and crew. So, but that'll do it. That'll be my take on this film Cruella. Thank you so much for watching, as well as to Disney for allowing me to see this early. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this film. Are you interested or excited to see it? Are you a little less apprehensive this being a live action adaptation? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. Also, what do you think of Cruella de Vil? All that good stuff. But anyways, if you like this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.